Hi, everyone. This is Abby with Central Scholarship, and today I'm happy to be here with Amber, who is one of our Central Scholarship recipients who recently graduated this year. So thank you, Amber, for being here with us today.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh, wonderful. So why don't we just start with tell us a little about yourself and kind of what life has been like the past few months as a senior at school.
Okay, so my name is Amber. I'm 21 and I recently graduated from Bucknell University in Pennsylvania. I've lived in Baltimore my whole life. I graduated from Digital Harbor High School. Um, I majored in psychology at Bucknell and I also minored in education. I've been involved in a couple different research projects at Bucknell. Um, yeah, and I'm really excited to be
That's
in
great.
med school, but
So tell me about the first time you remember feeling excited about college.
honestly, I think I've always been excited about college. I think I grew up knowing that I wanted to go. I think the first time I really remember like a solid experience was in middle school. And we started going on college tours at that time. And we went to like a couple of different like Maryland schools, like very local. And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to do this. Like this seems so fun. So I think that was the first time I was really, really excited to get into the process.
Yeah, so was college always in the game plan for you?
Yeah, I think it was in everyone's game plan for me
Yeah.
too. Like my parents were like, "You're going," and my schools were like, "You're going," and I was like, "Yeah, we're going, we're going."
So, in applying for college, what was the most difficult aspect of the process?
I think for me, picking the schools was kind of hard. I knew for myself that I didn't want to stay in state,
Mhm.
um, so I had a harder time figuring out like how far out of state I was willing to go. Also balancing like the cost of tuition with like scholarships and everything,
Mhm.
while still like I wanted to go to a really good school where I would get a lot of different academic opportunities.
Mhm.
So keeping all that in mind, I think was kind of hard because going to school out of state can be very expensive, and my parents could not afford like a really really expensive tuition like without scholarships and stuff. So
Yeah. So, how did you stay motivated to overcome some of those financial challenges?
I think for me, I just knew it was something I really wanted, and I knew that it was something I also needed to do what I want to do.
Mhm.
But I also had a lot of really great support around me. So, like my friends were like, "Oh, like I know you're gonna be fine. Like you can do this." And my teachers also were wonderful in helping me prepare and like decide and looking through everything. And my parents, of course, were like, "Oh, we don't really understand. I'm a first gen, so they hadn't applied, and they were like, we don't really know what's going on, but if you need anything, let us know. Like we'll read your essays."
Yeah.
Um, so all of that was really helpful to have all that support.
So, once you got to college, what were you most surprised to find out about the experience that no one prepared you for?
I think because I went out of state, it was just a different like world almost. And I was like, I was on my own. I had to make all new friends. Like, I'm a Bauer Scholar at Bucknell, or was, I guess,
Mhm.
which is just for Baltimore students. So there were a couple of us, and like we have met once before actually like going to school, but I didn't really know any of them in depth, and I didn't know anyone else in depth going. So I was
Mhm.
kind of like, oh, like I have to make friends, I have to meet people, and the campus, not the campus, but like the culture and the climate of Bucknell is very different from Baltimore. So I think that took some time for me to get used to. And
Yeah.
I think I didn't really expect that. So
Mhm. Yeah. Well, so, I mean, once you got there, can you remember any pivotal moments that you had that helped shape your goals professionally?
um so my second semester first year, I went into college, like I went into Bucknell knowing that I wanted to study psychology. And Bucknell doesn't let you decide your major technically until sophomore year, but you can start taking your courses if you want to, like
Mhm.
when you start. And I was like, I don't really know what I want to do with psychology. So the second semester, I chose to take multicultural psychology. And I think that really set in place like everything I did for the rest of my college career and like what I want to do after.
Mhm.
So I think that like meeting my professor, Dr. Mena, I think meeting her and like getting her advice on everything and like getting to know like her lab and then joining the lab eventually, I think that all really helped shape at least my academic experience.
Yeah. So do you feel like college changed you?
I
Remember being
definitely think
years
so.
ago? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just a mixture of like, well, it's college, obviously, but I was also out of state like 2.5 hours. So I was on my own. So basically, like everything I did, like my parents could like support me technically over the phone. So like other than that, they couldn't really do anything, which I think was really helpful because it really like forced me to be independent.
Yeah. So obviously, when COVID-19 emerged, lots of things changed for everyone in a lot of different areas of life. So, what was it like to be in college during your senior year and have the last few months be impacted in such a crazy way?
Um, for a lot of the people in my class, I know we were all kind of in denial at first. At first, we were like, oh, like there was talk about them extending the break by 2 weeks when we went home for spring break, but none
Mhm.
of us thought like, oh, they would reach out and be like, yeah, we're actually gonna completely switch, but like you have to come back and like get all your things, move out of your housing. And so I think when that happened, we were all kind of like, this isn't real. There's no way. And I think all of us were really just hoping like for that email being like, actually, like you can come back, like we're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there was also like, I know a lot of people were like, oh, if I had known this was my last week on campus, like there were so many things I would have done. And I'm like, I definitely feel that. So
Yeah. And how did transitioning to online learning go for you?
it was interesting. It wasn't terrible. Bucknell actually like extended our break a couple of days to give teachers and students like time to like refocus and like prepare for going online. I was in 2 research methods courses this semester, so I was working on 2 independent research projects.
Mhm.
So one of those was like with our monkey lab. So obviously, like with COVID, like I wasn't going to be able to keep running my experiments in the lab. So we kind of had to switch to more online experiments with available data from that was previously collected that we could use. So I think that was hard. But I think the professors overall did a really good job. I think it was just harder to stay motivated because, you know, you're at home and like whenever I'm home, like I'm not in like a school mentality. I'm kind of like, oh, like this is a break, like I can chill.
Yeah.
But obviously online learning, you can't. So
Yeah. And so at home, did you feel like you had a good learning environment? Like, was that difficult to all of a sudden be thrust back into your household and then still having all of the demands of your academics?
yeah, I think it was definitely strange at first. I'm very lucky to have my own room in my home.
Mhm.
But still, like with everyone else home, like there's just always so much going on. I also have dogs, and so
Yeah.
you know they bark randomly, and it's like, oh, I'm in the middle of class. But
Yeah.
so I think just dealing with everything at the same time was kind of like it was something to definitely adjust to.
So, what was it like to graduate this year?
Honestly, it kind of feels like we didn't graduate.
Mhm.
In the sense of like obviously you don't get a ceremony. Bucknell rescheduled ours for July and they just recently like canceled it. And so they're like, oh, like we're gonna send you like all of your stuff. But it's kind of weird because you're like, oh, like it's still that feeling of like, oh, we get to go back at some point,
Yeah.
even though I guess you don't get to go back for the semester.
Did they do virtual graduation? Did they do anything?
They haven't yet. They're supposed to do some sort of video on like in July on the date that we were gonna have graduation.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what that is. They haven't said like if it's an actual ceremony. They just said like there's this video. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, has the outbreak changed your plans for the immediate future?
Yes and no. So my plan was to take this next year off before applying to grad school. I want to go to grad school for my PhD in clinical psychology.
Mhm.
And so I knew like this year I would be off and I was going to hopefully be working like in a clinical like research setting. But obviously non-essential labs in Maryland are closed. They might be reopening soon in some places, I'm not sure. But they've been closed since I've been home, so I don't actually have like a job position yet. but I still plan to like apply for grad school this fall. So I've just been kind of trying to like adjust my time and like reworking on my personal statement and like studying for the GRE and all of that.
Yeah, that's a good use of time for this.
Yeah.
Well, so what would be your advice to people that want to support students during this time, during COVID-19, but aren't really sure what do students need right now?
I think it definitely varies student to student. I know one thing that a lot of students struggled with was like the financial like burden of having to come home for COVID. And I know like college students, if you were claimed as a dependent, like you weren't eligible for any like stimulus check or anything like that. And so I know like Bucknell has a really big like international student population, and obviously like being like told to leave halfway through the semester, like they didn't have plans to like fly back home. And so they had to find places to like stay for like the meantime. Also, like it's also hard to get flights out of the country, given the situation. And then I think also, you know, coming back home, like especially for seniors, I know there might be some like feelings of like depression and emotional like struggle. So I know Bucknell's Career Center and the counseling department like had online like virtual meetings or like phone meetings if you needed support. So I'd say that. And then also I'd say just, I think help figuring out where to go, because you feel kind of stuck. I know I felt like this for a while. Like I was like, oh, like I can't get a job. Like, what am I going to do for the next like couple of months while this happens? So I think just having someone to talk to about like, what can you do that isn't like going to make you feel bad about not doing anything. But
yeah. So what I know you mentioned you want to pursue your PhD ultimately. So what big goals do you have for your career?
It actually changed a little bit. So I started sophomore year, I started working in a multicultural psychology health research lab. And so I worked on 2 different projects concerning Latinx health, which was really interesting. But at the time, like once I became a junior in college, I was kind of like, oh, like I feel like something is kind of missing. Like I don't know if this is necessarily what I want to do. And so I started to like dip my toes into like special education fields and doing psych work with children with disabilities. And I really liked that. And I thought at the time, like that was what I really wanted to do. But I think recently, reflecting on my entire experiences, because this semester I also took Latinx psychology for my final psychology seminar. And I also completed another research project within multicultural psychology on racial disparities in pregnancy outcomes. And I think reflecting on all of that, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to be like in the field of like, not necessarily health disparities itself, but like, I want to work with those who are diverse or disadvantaged in some way.
Wow, that's amazing, Amber. And we think you are a standout Central Scholarship recipient. So I want to thank you for speaking with me and just telling us about what it's been like these past few months while we all kind of navigate this challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic. So thank you so much for talking with us. And, you know, best of luck on everything you decide to pursue in the future. And we are excited to just see what you accomplish.
Thank you. It was nice to speak with you.
Yes, you too.